Why don't we jump right in? Tell me about air water healing. What is it? What do you guys do? And how'd you get started in that world?
Oh my gosh, that's a long story, so I'll give you the cliff notes. I grew up in a home where having a crunchy mom was cool before it was like having a crunchy mom. Like now you go into the store at Whole Foods and you see the girls coming out of the gym and they're like reading every ingredient and they're like shaking their heads. And now they've got apps that will tell them where they can and cannot have their first date, depending on whether restaurants use seed oils or not. We live in a world where it's so cool because 20, 30 years ago, there wasn't really like, extreme health nuts, but like now it's like kind of becoming cool to watch what you eat, what you're drinking, and everybody's kind of looking at all these alternatives. And for me, I think it was my mom, really making sure that I was very involved in sports, right? So when I would go get my sports physical, my mom would take me to the chiropractor. If I had a fever, my mom would take me and I'd get a chiropractic adjustment. And I didn't really realize how important, having chiropractic care and using things like massage therapists and physical therapists as an alternative to just saying, you know what, let me jump under the knife. Also, kind of knowing what we ate. I grew up in a world where my father was a world-renowned chef, and he owned multiple restaurants. And coming home with like grass-fed, grass beef filet mignon tips from the dinner before the night before when he was hosting the '96 Atlanta Braves World Series, renting out huge car museums and coming home with all this grass-fed beef. I didn't realize
Nice.
what a clean diet I had growing up. And my mom unfortunately got very sick in like 2004, 2005. And she was like gonna have to go in and like have some surgery and get some stuff removed. And like they just could not figure it out. And my mom had been referred to by her chiropractor. There's a place out in California called OHI, and it's like a health institute. And it was founded by Ann Wigmore. And like as crazy as it sounds, like they were like the wheatgrass vegan, and I am not supporting veganism, and I am also not, looking down upon it. I'm just saying that that's the resort that she went to.
Hmm.
And when my mom left, a sick, I hate to say the word dying, but like a sick, dying, lifeless woman boarded that plane, and 4 weeks later, somebody vibrant, full of energy and different came back.
Wow.
It was just like in a 28-day period to see what clean diet and changing your spiritual outlook on life, what it did to my mom kind of was the next 10 years of me diving into air water healing and was like, how can we trap life into bottles and get people clean air, clean water, the way that I believe that Mother Nature and the world intended it for us to have.
100%. 100%. That beautiful story, beautiful cliff notes. I'm sure we could do a whole hour on you just telling me the full story of that. So thank you for sharing that. So what are you doing at Air Water Healing? How are you getting clean air, clean water into a bottle? Like what exactly do you guys do to get this health out to people?
Okay, so we start with our chief technology officer, Alan Johnston. He's a post Harvard grad, Purdue grad. He went to school to be an engineer. And one of the things that he saw that was broken in the air purification space was that most of the air purifier or HVAC systems in our United States, big box stores are heavily reliant on HEPA filters. And
Hmm.
they're reliant on pollution, whether it be mold spores or carcinogenic off gassing. There's a lot of chemicals that nowadays people, 10 years ago, we would bathe in these chemicals, and now people are like, okay, I'm only cleaning my house with vinegar. But those off gassing chemicals kind of created a soup, if you may say. Like when I say a soup, like a chemical soup inside of the house. And Alan had kind of figured out whether you're religious or not, he said that Mother Nature or the divine feminine God created did not make mistakes. And what he had noticed was there was no HEPA filters in Mother Nature. So he's like, wait a second. If Mother Nature doesn't need filters to keep the air clean, then what can we do to start removing this pollution and this off gassing? So what he created was a machine that tied together UV irradiation in the form of a PCO cell. And if anybody wants to Google PCO, don't try to spell out photocatalytic oxidation. Just look up PCO. There's a lot of stuff. Google will give you about 9 pages of what it will break down and what it can do. But what's really interesting is it creates superoxides and what's known as hydroxyls. So the easiest way to visualize it is you cut your hand, you pour hydrogen peroxide on your hand. We've all seen what it does, right? It bubbles and starts to disinfect. You can kind of see like the white, almost like bubbling action. It's oxidative. So what Alan had created was an H2O2 vapor. It's a harmless form that breaks down chemicals, mold, and gases to harmless CO2 or H2O. So we're basically taking a really harmful organism that's inside of your house, and instead of waiting for it to come to a filter, we are sending out those hydroxyls into every square inch of a living space or a military barracks or multiple MLB and NFL teams that we've installed these systems in. And what it's doing is it's creating a barrier where it's going out and preventing and protecting proactively instead of it being a reaction. I hope I didn't over scientific.
That it's fascinating. I have a couple of questions. One, I want to make sure that I'm tracking with you correctly. You're not saying that the HEPA filter itself is off gassing. You're saying there are things that are in the environment that the HEPA filter is, in order for it to work, those off gases need to make their way to the HEPA filter before it can function correctly. Is that what you're saying?
100%. And not only that, but a HEPA filter can't go out and proactively look for pollution before it even gets into another room. So that it's a whole other barrier. Like where HEPA filter does a really good job of getting pollen and dander or cat hair or whatever it may be, the biggest problem is the microscopic and the small particles. So if you were to look on a scale, right, let's just say that a particle of dust, the size of my fist is 0.05 microns. The PCO technology that's inside of our machine can proactively break down 0.001, which is like if you were to hold this and then like under a microscope, like you'd be looking at like the tip of a pencil. Like imagine the tip of a pencil being 0.001 and my fist being 0.05. So you're talking 600 times smaller than what a dust particle would be, is what PCO can break down and render it inert. And that's just the beginning of what we offer for air solutions for people.
Fascinating. It's so many. I have like so many things to say. I'm like really like into what you're putting down. I had a guest on a few weeks ago talking about holistic health. And one of the things that I asked her at the end of the episode, we covered like all sorts of like holistic health stuff. And at the end of the episode, I said, what is like one actionable thing that you recommend to people to start to begin a healthier journey, a healthier life? And her recommendation was actually to get a very, very good water filter. So I'm guessing you guys do water as well based on the name of your company. And I want to get into that, but I actually want to share a story with you really quickly, if it's okay with you. Um,
Please.
so I've been doing this type of therapy recently called IFS. I don't know if you've heard of that or if you're into that kind of thing, but internal family systems, basically you send a message internally into yourself and then communicate with parts of yourself. And I'm just thinking of this now. I want to share it with you because I was doing a session like maybe a year ago, and it's like a really deep, it's to me it's like almost like a spiritual like shamanic journey, but without taking any psychedelics or anything like that. And my therapist is guiding me through this, and I send the message inward, basically asking like what do you need, like tell me, going into the deepest parts of myself, what do I need? And I'm expecting like, some amazing answer, like you're going to write a book that's going to change the world and this is how you're going to do it. And I'm really like meditating inward. What do you need? Tell me what you need right now. And then the message comes back from within myself. You need to sweep under your bed. get all the dust out from under your bed. And I'm like, what the fuck? I thought I'd get some amazing, like, the idea for the next best invention or book or something. And the message was like, it's too dusty underneath your bed. And then I actually did it. I honored that message and I swept underneath the bed, and there was actually a lot of dust and stuff under there. And I found myself sleeping much better. So it's just coming up. It just like popped into my brain, like the importance of cleaning your space and the air that you're breathing. Um, and I have like something I got on Amazon, like an air filter, like a Levoit thing. I think it's a HEPA filter one. Um, but have you noticed, like, have you gotten any feedback from clients after they use your air purification system? Do they notice any changes in their life and in their health?
So I will tell you that prior to me doing podcast and talking about my journey for air water healing, the one aspect that we've never needed help advertising is the air purifier section. All of our business comes from referrals. We've got over 2,500 naturopaths and chiropractors that have these in their centers that refer, over 600 ENTs. And I can tell you countless of hundreds of thousands of reviews from Amazon, from Nextdoor, and from mold contractors. Dr. Gary Rosen, who's one of the leading mold experts in the world, he's got a PhD in biochemistry, UCLA grad. He helps write the mold remediation protocol for the state of Florida. So like when people want to take their test and become a licensed mold contractor, he actually helps write the test that they need to pass in order to get their license to go in after a storm and do mold work. And again, I will put this on the podcast. Do not ever use an unlicensed mold remediator because mold is so toxic. Please make sure you always ask for a copy of their license if you're ever, don't ever let a handyman help with mold in your house. But what we get is life changing. The phone calls that we get, the people that couldn't breathe. I can't tell you how many times a month we get emails from somebody saying that, you know, my daughter came back from college and she developed an allergy to our household cat. We were going to have to get rid of the cat. We had tried every filter named on the market, and somebody recommended your V3. We plugged it in, and my daughter could literally be sitting on the couch 4 feet from the cat and be able to breathe. And to me, that really shows the second aspect. So we talked about PCO, okay? Now we're going to talk about negative ions. Everybody's familiar with negative ions because if you go near a waterfall or if you drink ion water, there's a lot of brands out there that are infusing ions into the water. And when you really experience negative ions is after a thunderstorm. So when lightning strikes, it does two things. Well, it does three things. It scares the crap out of my cat. It makes ozone and it makes negative ions. So the negative ions actually are attaching to anything with a positive charge. And the easiest way without breaking down and trying to get all analytical and science with people, if you imagine when we were kids, right, we played with magnets. You've got a positive side and you've got a negative side. As soon as the magnets get close enough, they are going to attach to each other. Imagine millions and millions of little positive magnets, whether it's dust, pollen, dust bunnies, the stuff that you saw that was that you were able to sweep underneath your floor. That had a heavy enough charge to where it actually went under your bed and landed on the floor. You were able to vacuum it and mop it and sweep it. Now, in your room, if you were to open up your blinds and the sun was rising, if you have any windows in your house that are facing east, you can actually, around sunrise, you can actually catch a glimpse of a ray of light where you can kind of see little particles and dust that are kind of floating around. Even better, get a laser pointer or a flashlight at midnight, going throughout your house, and each room you walk into, you'll be able to tell the air quality based on how much stuff is floating around that you normally don't see, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second that you turn our machine on, within a day or two, you no longer see that stuff floating around an array of light in the house. It's completely gone.
Wow. Fascinating. So Would you say, you mentioned mold, and I actually had friends recently who had a big mold problem in their apartment, and they were like losing hair, and it was like they were getting really unhealthy. It was a big problem. Would you say that there's a bigger mold issue in our country and in our society than people realize?
100%. Yeah, especially because like I just had man, I think it was in Idaho. I was on a radio show this morning and
Mhm.
I had shared a testimony with one of the guys, and there was a woman that I had met at one of the health conferences that I was at, and she was a survivor of breast cancer and a survivor of mold toxicity. She had a huge mold. I don't want to say it was like Lyme's disease, but it was like a massive. They thought it was Lyme for a long time, and then they found out that it was actually mold toxicity that she had from some black mold that was inside of her house. And she said to me, she goes, I would rather have breast cancer again than what I went through with mold. And that's when
Whoa.
I realized how toxic people who are exposed, because what it does to your immune system, you can't sleep, you can't breathe. Like people have suicidal thoughts. Like it's a neurotoxin, like, the mycotoxin that gets into your brain when you're exposed to mold. And I think a really, really easy way, unless the place that you're traveling is also infected with mold, a lot of people that have mold in their house will say that when they go on vacation, they feel better. Or if they go, let's say they go to Orlando, right? They go to Disney with the family for 3 or 4 days, and they're like, man, all of my symptoms, like I'm starting to like, my brain fog went away. That's usually when I would say you might want to put something in the house that can either kill the mold or you might want to have somebody come out and do a test.
So your air filter, it doesn't necessarily kill mold though, but is it cleaning the air that you're breathing in? Like, so if you have mold in your house, it's your air filter is not necessarily going to remove that, but it's going to make the air cleaner. Or can you talk a little bit about like how it works regarding mold?
Correct. Yeah. So Dr. Gary Rosen, who is the leading mold expert in the state of Florida, he has tested our machine and he has verified that our machine will kill mold. It'll even kill the spores that are in the air. The one thing that our machine will not do is it will not remove what is causing mold in your house. So
Gotcha.
if you've got a crawl space or a pipe that's leaking behind a drywall and that is not corrected, there is no air purification system in the world that is going to fix a leaky pipe or reverse a humidity issue that you have in the basement. And a lot of times people don't realize, how easy it is to get mold in the house. I mean, you could go into a shower, and if the shower doesn't have good ventilation, you could see the little black lines that are in between the grout because that grout, I never knew this, and I'm gonna guess when I tell you this, you're gonna say you didn't know this. Every 30 days, we're supposed to put like a sealant on the grout if you've got tile inside of a shower.
Wow.
I spent 5 years in my first marital home. I had never once put sealant on the grout because water, besides hydrogen, is one of the smallest molecules. So they say that it's like 400 times smaller than the grout that's there. So it's easy for water to penetrate. And as soon as that water gets behind the tile, if it's not getting exposure to sunlight or exposure to cool air, one of the first things that it does is it starts causing to turn to bacteria or mildew or mold.
So I actually really want to give one of your air purifiers a shot in my house, and I see is that one of them that you have there in the frame with you?
Yes.
And I
This
have like a multi-part question. I'm guessing you have multiple units, but like there it looks like it's about like a little bit bigger than a toaster oven, maybe the size of like two toasters. And
I'll put it here next to my mason jar so you can kind of see. It's about double the size of a mason jar from top to bottom. It weighs about 11 pounds, so it's about 12 by 9 by 12 inches.
you're picking it up no problem. So it's not that heavy. And something like that will clear like a fairly large room, or will it clear like a floor of a house? And I'm just curious, like what does something like that cost, and like how much space does it clean?
Right. So I tell everybody We have two approaches to the purification inside of your home. Okay. You can start with what I call the single room unit. So this guy right here will do 250 to 500 square feet, really good for a basement or a master bedroom. My favorite is the one that I have in my truck right now. This is a car unit, can also be used in your home. You could put it in your living room, dining room, kitchen. It'll do about 250 square feet as well. But this one can also fit in a cup holder of the car, which is incredible for anybody who spends more than an hour a day in the car, because that's basically about 8% of your life you'll spend in a vehicle if you're commuting 1 hour to work or
And,
less.
and by the way, sorry to cut you off, but I actually heard recently, isn't it true that there's a lot of off-gassing that occurs from materials that are inside the car, like your dashboard or the cloths that are used in the seat, and then the sun is blasting down on those materials inside your car? I heard recently that there could be a lot of off-gassing from just like your dashboard and stuff like that.
Not only the dashboard, but one of the biggest issues that nobody is talking about is we have over 130 million vehicles on the road every day in America. And unless you're driving a motorcycle, that car has between 4 and 18 tires. All of those tires are made of very toxic chemicals. So every time somebody's stepping on their brakes, every time, and I want you to think when you buy brand new tires and then, a year later they're completely bald, depending on how fast and erratic you drive. And then you've got ceramic brake dust and the pads that's just putting heavy shards of metal, chemicals, and off gassing, literally creating a plume above every road in America. And I think that's why things like sick building syndrome. Sherry Rogers wrote a book, Detoxify or Die. And they used to talk about if your house is off gassing and you're getting sick, right? Or your car, right? You said, the material that they have inside of the dashboard and the carpets that are in there. Like that new car smell, that's usually formaldehyde, right? It's usually not good
Hmm.
stuff that they're using to treat the carpets, and we all love the smell, right? We love the smell of a brand new car, but we know that it's not good. People love the smell when they walk into a bathroom because when they smell a little bit of bleach, they know that it's clean, right? It's that wow, it smells clean in here, but it's a chemical, so it's not good. It's not good for you. But I think that the bigger picture is when you consider 11,000 liters of air a day is what we breathe from the moment we wake up to the moment we wake up the next day. In a 24-hour period, the average human breathes about 11,000 liters of air a day. What can we do to make sure that we're breathing clean air, or our best effort to clean the air inside of our home? And I have never found a purification system that can do what the V3 does. So to answer your question, the smaller units, those retail for around $150. We're always running specials. We always offer coupons. And then the large unit, that will actually do a two-story home up to 3,000 square feet. So you do not need one in every room. Living room, dining room, kitchen, 4 or 5 feet off the ground, and it will do upstairs and downstairs with every single door in the house can be closed, and the machine will still work without ever having a filter that needs to be replaced.
Wow. So that was my next question is what is the maintenance on it? Like I have the little one that I got on Amazon that's like a HEPA filter one, and you basically got to like vacuum it out, or I take it outside and like take the components out and like shake them out and they're all full of dust and stuff. So what is the maintenance on one of your machines?
So there's a PCO cell that's inside of the big machine that needs to be replaced every 2 years, and that's a cost of $65. So less than a little over $1 a month maintenance for running the PCO cell. And then there is a little metal plate that's inside of there that makes the hydroxyls. You literally clean that with warm water and vinegar, and you do that about once every 6 months.
Oh, easy. Once every 6 months,
Hmm.
rinse it out. Yeah, I like to say one of my little cliche things I like to talk about is, they say you could live for maybe like a month without food and like a week without water, but you could live for like a couple minutes without air. So super important to breathe good.
Well, not only that, but you have to consider that, there's a lot of people that are out there that have done a lot of research, about indoor air quality. Like one of my I don't know if I have it here, but I you can't see my desk, but I have lots and lots of books that we always dive into. This was given to me by a very good friend of mine, Alex, and this is written by a Kansas State University bio security research engineer and a doctor. His name is Dr. Alan Summersall, a 30-year practicing physician, but he wrote a book called Fresh Air for Life. And in the book, this is a PhD and an MD, and then it's forwarded by Dr. James Marsden, and he says that according to the American College of Allergists, 50% of all illnesses are either caused or aggravated by polluted indoor air. I'm
Wow.
going to read that one more time. 50% of all illnesses are caused or aggravated by polluted indoor air. 5 years before that study came out, the EPA ranked indoor air pollution among the top five most significant environmental dangers to the American public. So think about if your house and again, I don't talk politics. I don't talk politics with anybody because I feel like it's the biggest design to make everybody hate each other. It's just that you're on the left, you're on the right, you're somewhere in the middle. I don't care what anybody says, but I will say that Robert F. Kennedy's movement about making America healthy again does not start until you make your home healthy again. Because if you are living inside of a home that is making you sick, there is a very little to slim chance that you are ever going to achieve the type of health and wellness that you want if you're sleeping in a house that's filled with toxins and you're bringing things into the house that are poisoning you. It is literally common sense. Everything starts at home.
Yeah, well said. And I keep thinking about your example with like the morning light rays or the laser pen, because I've
Mhm.
definitely seen like the morning sun coming in and I see a whole bunch of stuff in it, particles and dust and stuff. And so I guess that can't be good to be breathing all that in.
No, no. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like it's doom and gloom. There's like nothing that we can do. If you can't afford an air purifier like the one that we have here, there's other things you can do, like going and getting some plants. There's a lot of plants out there that are very hard to kill, right? I've got multiple snake plants in my bedroom that are really good at eating CO2. They also help purify. Now, don't go to a big box store. See if you can go to a local grower. I mean, anywhere you are in the country, there's usually some places that, find the guy that's selling to Home Depot or Lowe's, and usually they'll give you wholesale pricing. You might have to go there and buy 10 or 15 plants, but find one that's hard to kill, right? And that'll last you for years and years if, as long as you take care of them. You know,
Mhm.
I can't remember the exact ratio, but I think for every human being that's in a house, you should have like 6 to 7 plants. Problem is, most people don't have enough room to, have them in every window because it depends on which species of plant you get, how much light it requires. And you can also take the plants if you want to do your diligence and take it outside and let it get direct sunlight for 2 to 3 hours. But it's again, how much time do you have, right? Maybe on a weekend you can bring it out if you don't live up in, the northern frozen tundra, but there's other things that you can do. I had one guy that called me and was like, "Oh man," he's like, "I went to Home Depot and a snake plant was $60." He's like, "I figured by the time I bought enough of them for everybody in my house," he's like, "your air purifier is way cheaper." I was like, "Okay, there it is, awesome."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there are so many other solutions that people can do, and it starts by not bringing chemicals into the home, right? There is not many things that you buy at the grocery store that natural vinegar can't do.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was wondering that, like for people who can't afford the filter, what are some of the things that they can do? So bringing plants in that kind of help to purify the air. And so you're saying don't bring chemicals in. So an example of that would be like don't use cleaners that are packed full of chemicals when you could be using basically vinegar and hot water instead.
Yeah, 100%. And also remember that there's a lot of things that you can do you could do a lot of things to naturally clean the air in your house by looking at the ingredients of the things that you're using. If you can't pronounce an ingredient, there's probably a good chance that it's going to have a side effect. And there's a lot of websites now where you can literally scan a QR code and it will like have red flags on every ingredient that's next to it. It'll be like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. I don't promote any of them, but I get they get mentioned all the time. I literally have a little black book with all of the cool things that I hear about from these podcasts. The same thing that you do when you go to look for the food ingredients, it will do it with your natural household cleaners. They'll tell you, oh, this is good, this is great. You can use it for this, you can use it for that. Even detergents, right? Like you can use borax and things like that to wash your clothes. And natural things like for stain removers, and those are also things you have to be very very concerned about because of the fact that if you're doing 2 or 3 loads of laundry a day, that's also going to be a lung irritant because you're putting hot water in it, it's spinning the clothes, and all of that is kind of going everywhere.
Hmm. You know what's wild? I recently had a little finger injury, and one of the things that they asked when I'm at the doctor is, "Do you smoke?" And I quit smoking. I don't smoke anymore. But I kind of inquired about that. I'm like, that's an interesting question for a finger injury. Is that just like you just generally want to know how healthy I am? And they said, no, people who smoke will heal slower. I have your people who smoke, their tendons will not heal as fast. I found
Uh,
that fascinating. I didn't bother to ask the doctor, like, why does it work that way? But really interesting to me that they asked me that. And I learned that people who smoke will actually, your tendons will heal slower.
yeah, I've got something crazy that you might be familiar with or not familiar with, but I'm gonna bring it up just because it's an interesting topic and it's not my topic. Um, are you familiar with Dr. Brian Ardis?
No,
Okay, so Dr. Brian Ardis, Ardis, he's got a book on Amazon, and it's called I think I think it's like medical truth or medical lies. But one of the things that he did, the one of the research things that he did, which was to me was absolutely like mind-boggling, was he said that during the pandemic, in the COVID-19 groups in all of the hospitals all across the country, cigarette smokers were affected less than
I
people
heard this.
who don't smoke cigarettes. And it has something to do with a nicotinol receptor where like the COVID-19, for some reason, it like was blocked by the nicotine. And I'm not saying that people that were smoking cigarettes didn't die, right? Or get COVID really, really bad, but the masses was, and it had something, and again, I'm not saying people go out and start smoking cigarettes because there's things like nightshades and eggplants and potatoes that have naturally occurring nicotine in it, and those are some really cool products that are available at Whole Foods that you can go to kind of make sure that you're giving your body a natural boost of nicotine without having to go out and puff the cigarettes. But that's just crazy how on the opposite side what it does for your tendons and how long it takes to heal versus now a nicotine smoker or a cigarette smoker was actually protected more from COVID than non-smokers.
I think that's fascinating. And I actually know that there are actually many benefits to taking nicotine. Um, I had actually quit smoking around the time of COVID, and I was chewing nicotine gum by coincidence. And I never really got hit hard by COVID. And I actually wonder if chewing the nicotine gum was blocking any virus that could have come in. But yeah, nicotine is very interesting because you can consume it in other ways besides smoking. And it's, this is going to be kind of controversial, but it's actually great for attention and focus, um and other things. So I think it's the smoke that's slowing down the healing process. But I did hear that about COVID and nicotine. I think it's fascinating. Um so thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Um, so what else? We talked a lot about the air, and I actually really want to try your filter in my house. Um, you guys, what are you doing with water?
So we've got a lot of stuff with water, and I think that the most important important thing that we can do for water is on our website. You go to airwaterhealing.com. There's a section under our water that's called hydrogen. Under hydrogen, we work with a Dr. Paul Baratero out of Utah, and he developed one of the world's first bottles that can use any water. Meaning, if you like distilled water, perfect. If you like RO water, perfect. If you like bottled spring water, perfect. What he has figured out a way to do is you can put 8 to 12 ounces of water in one of these little bottles. It's about maybe the same size of my mason jar, and it's about half as skinny. And what it does is it'll put between 2.4 to 5 parts per million of molecular hydrogen gas into the water. And what's coming out on the studies of hydrogen water is that this is probably the most researched water that there is in the world. There's a website. I don't own it. I don't edit it. I've got nothing to do with it, but I found it. It's called hydrogenstudies.com. Every one of those studies, a lot of them come from Japan. They come from China, South Korea, Russia, the United States. There's a couple that were published in Africa. And these are all doctors that are looking at the effects of hydrogen gas on the human body. And there's over 1,370 plus clinical studies. I think at one point it was 1,400. A couple of them have been redacted or they were found to be unvalidated, but over 1,300 clinical studies on hydrogen gas being dissolved in water. And all of the studies that were done were at zero point zero 0.05 parts per million or right around there. So therapeutic levels of hydrogen gas is zero point zero 0.05. The water bottle is very affordable. I think it's like $200, $250, has a 5-year warranty. Absolutely incredible. And it doesn't matter what kind of water you drink. You can see massive benefits for antioxidant, anti-aging, anti-inflammation. There's athletes all across the country that have now endorsed this water bottle. There's doctors all across the world that are endorsing this. I mean, it was literally on Joe Rogan, and millions of people saw the interview with Gary Brecka, and he was talking about how the water had changed his life. Dana White, who owns the UFC, he started drinking the hydrogen water. He literally says Gary Brecka saved his life. You know, literally with his food and his diet, and changed his protocols. And literally now look at Dana White, man. The dude's shredded, and everywhere he goes, he's got that little Echo Go Plus water bottle with him. And that's just on the hydrogen side. We also have filters, which are great, you know. So a lot of people have demonized RO, reverse
Yeah.
osmosis, because it does deplete the minerals. And I
Hmm.
tell everybody, if you're depending on your water for minerals, you're doing it wrong. Your minerals should be coming from your supplement and your food, okay? And also the air that you're breathing, because there's minerals in the air. What I always tell people is get a really good organic, I don't sell it, but maybe Amazon, find a Celtic sea salt and
Hmm.
put a little bit of water underneath your tongue, because wherever salt goes, water will follow. Ask a slug.
Very interesting. You said a lot of stuff there. The hydrogen, that does not clean the water, correct?
Correct. So I tell everybody, if you're drinking tap water, the hydrogen bottle's not for you. But if you buy bottled water, or if you have a filter on your fridge, or you already have an RO, or you've got a distiller, or you've got a Berkey, you want to put clean water into the Echo Go Plus water bottle. If you want to be able to use your tap water, there is an accessory on our website. There's something called the Echo Go Pitcher. It's about I think it's about $500, $600, but it'd be enough water for everybody in the family. And what you can do is pour the water through the filter. There's a filter on the top, and it filters out the water, and then you press the button, and it puts the hydrogen gas into it. And it's a much larger, amount of water for everybody in the household. And that's a really good combo. If somebody wants to check that out, that's on airwaterhealing.com under the hydrogen section. There's a picture. I say that's like the family plan. But for a single guy, somebody who just wants to, have some good clean water, there's a lot of gravity fed filters that I don't manufacture, but Amazon carries them. Just look for ones that remove lead and heavy metals. And you could literally just take your tap water, put it in that, and then put it into the Echo Go Plus. So for around $400 to $500, you could have a complete system. having my Echo Go Plus water bottle and getting a gravity fed filter off of Amazon.
The Echo Go Plus, is that the one that Dana White is using?
Yes, that and Gary Brecka and a lot of athletes. If you go on our website, there's a lot of people that endorse that water. Um, and I can tell you for a fact that we're also Tom Brady. I know Tom Brady and his crew is using the Echo products. Logan Paul, Jake Paul, they have a lot of the products that we have on there, which will put hydrogen gas into your bathtub. So if you want to soak and really, really deep dive, but now you're talking like five, six, $7,000. It's not for your average Joe. That's going to be for a professional athlete, or
Got you.
somebody at a collegiate level, will be using stuff like that. And again, I tell everybody the Echo Go Plus is the best $250 to $200 you will ever spend. It's got a 30-day money back guarantee and a 5-year warranty. I would not put my name on anything if I did not see massive benefits. I can tell you, women, anybody that is one of your listeners, if they're planning on having children or are pregnant mothers, I have had so many doulas and so many midwives say that they're seeing the most vibrant colors on the placenta and the longest umbilical cords they have ever seen with women who are drinking this hydrogen gas water. And
Wow.
you can't overdo it. You can't overdo it because and you have to remember hydrogen is the smallest element on the periodic table of elements, and it is also the number one antioxidant, anti-inflammation molecule on the world.
That is fascinating. How long do you know how long has like hydrogenated water been being studied? And is this in any way something that resembles nature or like what our ancient ancestors would have been drinking, or is this a totally new thing?
So again, you have to remember that there's already hydrogen in water, right? Because H2O is two parts of hydrogen and one part of oxygen. The problem is what is it? What is it bioavailable? That's the most important thing. So I have a very inexpensive reader. I mean, it was maybe a couple $100. Nobody in your audience needs to buy one of these unless they do water testing, okay? But there's a tester that you can get for a couple $100 on Amazon, and it will literally test the ppm, which is the parts per million of hydrogen gas. It's an H2 meter. You put it in regular water and it shows zero. even though
Weird.
even though there's hydrogen in the water, the two parts of hydrogen and the one part of oxygen had equaled each other out in the creation of the water, right? So what's happening is water bottle that Gary and all of these guys are endorsing and that Dr. Paul was able to invent, there's a pressure valve that's at the very bottom. And what it does is it pulls the excess oxygen that's in the bottle out and it reintroduces the hydrogen back into it. So what it's doing is it's increasing the hydrogen bioavailable gas that's being dissolved into the water. And I will be very transparent. This is chugging water within an hour or two. You don't want to charge it and put it into a mason jar and go drink it 4 days later. It'll have zero medical benefit because the
Mhm.
hydrogen cannot be trapped in the water forever. So the quicker you drink it, the better it is to get into your gut because your gut health is basically your first brain, right?
Mhm.
Everything that you're eating is going into your gut and it's going through. So I tell everybody that this is not your water that you're gonna put in your Stanley cup and go drink it 9 hours later. Like you want to have that bottle with you and be drinking it within, an hour. It's better to drink it within 5 to 10 minutes, but there is still detectable hydrogen even after an hour.
That's fascinating. I've seen like at the fancy grocery store. I live in Los Angeles. We got plenty of those. And they sell like I forget the brand name, but it's like a bag of water and it's supposed to be like hydrogenated water. And I used to buy that and drink it and I liked it, but I'm thinking kind of along what you're saying. Like if you're buying the bag of hydrogenated water,
How
it's
much of it leaked out?
what's that?
How much of the hydrogen has leaked out,
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like it's, if it's been sitting on a shelf for a few days, it's probably reverted back to non bioavailable hydrogen. Um, this is fascinating stuff, man. I want to try all these products. And you do on your website, you do have a filter section as well. Like if someone wanted to, do you have like a, like a Brita style thing where you could just pour tap water into it and keep it in your fridge and then it's filtering your water?
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about on the for the Echo Go Plus pitcher or the Echo pitcher. There's actually an attachment that literally sits right on top of the pitcher where you can pour the water in, and it works pretty good. I don't know. My guys are pretty busy here in the office today because we have a lot of I have a wellness center. If you're ever in Florida and you want to come check it out, you be my guest. We have a lot of patients today. But I just texted one of my guys to see if they could bring me the Echo water bottle. I'm gonna have them grab one off the shelf, and I'm gonna have them grab my tester, and I'll actually show that to you guys if I can get them somebody to answer. They're very busy. But yeah, on the water section, there's also something else. Do you have the ability to share your screen,
I
or
do.
I guess it won't really matter for the Spotify, but anybody that does watch on YouTube, I'll just have you pull it up so you can see it on a separate page. Go to the Air Water Healing website real quick, and I'm going to
Okay.
show you something that we just got done working. We've been manufacturing this for a couple years now.
All right, hang on. Let me just get a little tab open here. Sorry, just give me 1 second.
No, no, not a problem. So look, what all I'll show you is while you're looking at it, or if you get that tab open, if you go to airwaterhealing.com and you scroll about halfway down, there's a section in between our heart health supplement and the Echo Go Plus, which is the atmospheric water generator. That is a first of its kind now available to the general public. Usually only been available to the military in the past. This is a first of the kind air to water machine, which will pull moisture out of the air, which protects your house from mold because excess moisture can lead to mold. It runs it through a UV light and then a filter. So I just wanted you so for your eyes, so that way you could actually see what it looks like. But on the airwaterhealing.com website, there's
O-
actually a section there.
Okay, I'm on the website. Just tell me what to scroll to, and then I'll.
Just scroll down. So if you scroll down at the very top where you see where it says Triad air purifiers,
Yep.
scroll down and you'll see where it says our products.
Mm-hmm.
And then go all the way down to the bottom above our reviews. You'll see where it says atmospheric water generator.
Okay, I see it.
So that is a first of its kind for the general public, and that makes drinking water on demand out of the humidity that's in your house.
Oh, that is so cool.
And California is our biggest market right now. So people love it because it avoids you having to go out and pick up plastic bottles. For a family of two or three, it's perfect because that'll do about 20 liters. Or that one actually, that model does 10 liters, and then we have a 20-liter model as well. But that'll do about 2 to 2.5 gallons of drinking water a day. And so anybody that's like you that has the mason jars, I say before you go to bed at night, fill up 2 mason jars, put it in the fridge, wake up the next morning, and you got two more mason jars. And you could always have between 5 to 6 mason jars filled with water. And that's an incredible product. They're very pricey. They retail for about $1,700, but when you consider how much money you spend on bottled water every year, it's not as expensive as you think for a family of four.
Dude, that is brilliant. And I gotta assume that you guys are just gonna like keep making it better and better over time. Like eventually it's probably gonna be able to pull like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not a scientist, but is it eventually gonna be able to pull like even more than a couple mason jars?
Oh yeah, I mean it'll do 2.5 gallons. It'll do 2.5 gallons a day.
How much is the average person supposed to be drinking a day?
I mean, you're supposed to drink half your body weight in ounces. So, if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be drinking 100 ounces of water a day. And I say you can drink even less if it's hydrogen water. So this is the bottle. I'm gonna
That's
try to get it close to the camera there a little bit. If you,
that's the is that the Echo Go Plus?
yep, that's the Echo Go Plus. So I'll put it.
It look by the way, it looks cool too.
It's a very cool product. It's kind of hard to see it with its bubbling just because of all of the lights that I have here in the studio. But this is actually putting hydrogen gas into the water right now. I think the angle on
I could see the little bubbles.
you kind of see the bubbles going through. But I'm going to show you real quickly. So I tested the water off screen right here. So on this little reader right here, it literally says 0.000 on the parts per million of the molecular hydrogen gas. I've only had this bottle running for about 30 seconds. I'll put that in there, and it's already testing at 1.6, 1.7 parts per million of molecular hydrogen gas. So it's already detecting full the therapeutic level of hydrogen. And that right there is so cool because the studies, like I think one of the coolest studies that I saw on the hydrogen gas was the fact that it will actually help your body absorb your supplements better. Doesn't matter what supplement you take. It doesn't have to be mine. It can be any supplement that you get from anywhere in the world. Drinking hydrogen gas allows your body to absorb the supplement that you're taking better than regular water alone. And that right there should be enough to make everybody be like, all right, I'm foregoing going out to dinner. Like I spent $180 at dinner last night with three people, right? Forego dinner once a week for 2 weeks, and you just paid for your Echo Go Plus water bottle.
Dude, that thing is so cool. I'm like, I want to try that so bad right now. I'm like, I wish I had one. Just as soon as you're like, oh, it's one of the most anti-inflammatory things you can do. I'm like, I'm in. I'm in. How much water does that thing hold? Like a glass of water at a time?
I think it's about 12 ounces.
Okay. Okay.
So you should probably drink about 4 or 5 of those a day. It only takes about 5 minutes to go through the cycle, but as I showed you, within 30 seconds, already above therapeutic level.
And
So
what kind of maintenance, like, is there, do you have to like replace any components in that or clean it in some way? Or is it just like a
I think
regular old
you
water bottle?
if you read the owner's manual, I think it says that once every like 5 or 6 months, you maybe put like a capful, a half a capful of vinegar and equal parts water, and it will just kind of clean anything that's down there.
Hmm.
Down where there's actually a photon exchange. It's going to be hard to see on camera, but if you go online, there's all the instructions on how to clean it. And again, I have people that will tell me that they only drink 4 water bottles of that, and it gets them more hydration than drinking like a gallon of their regular water when they go to the gym because of just how much more hydration you're getting from the hydrogen.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm like, I want to order that thing like as soon as we get off this call. Um, so you mentioned that you guys do have a pitcher that filters and hydrogenates the water. Do you also sell something that's just a filter, or is that kind of like we're on our own for that? You use whatever your filter of choice is, whether it's RO or Berkey or whatever.
Correct. So that would be our underneath the sink. We have a tankless RO, which is very easy to install. Most of the stuff that we sell on the website, especially when we're going through Echo, they've got very good videos online. And like for the layperson, I'm not a plumber, right? So when I installed the RO, I was like, this is going to be an absolute nightmare. They sent me a little Jandy adapter. You basically turn your cold water off, okay? And then the water line that you normally have that connects from the back of your water faucet that goes up to where you're washing your hands or your fruit in your kitchen, and they send you an adapter where a little like 1/4 inch fitting connects to a little piece of piping that they send to you, and then that will split and feed into the RO, and then another line goes up into a faucet that they provide. So your pure drinking water will now come out of your new faucet. Usually there's a hole there. You can either replace your soap dispenser or go get a drill and drill through your granite or your wood or your metal, whatever it is. If you need a handyman, it'll probably charge you $50 to come and install it for you. But I was able to do it and simply just replaced where the soap dispenser was. I took
Hmm.
out the soap dispenser, I unscrewed it through the granite countertop, and I just dropped the RO little filter that was there and screwed it in, and it was absolutely a game changer because of how how much impurities the RO takes out. And because it's tankless, it'll fit under most people's sinks. So a lot of the ROs are pressurized and they have a tube that's about twice, if not three times the size of my head. So it's a big air bladder that has to pressurize it. So that you can easily do. But again, I'm all for filtered water. If you're not buying it from me, go online and get a gravity fed filter. There's a lot of stainless steel ones that are out there where you just, put the water in and it'll, maybe 95% of the impurities. I don't think anything's going to do 100% like RO, but you're better off with that than having absolutely nothing.
Do you have any opinions on like Kangen or pH water? Or
So
yeah,
I think Kangen is very good in the fact that it's filtered,
yeah.
but I think that when you start talking about any of the companies that are out there that are multi-level marketing, the cost of the units are so expensive because you're paying so many people underneath you, where
Hmm.
it's like if you were to test the amount of hydrogen coming out of a Kangen machine versus what's coming out of a $250 water bottle, it's going to be, I think, identical. It's so 5,000 versus 250 bucks. And Dr. Paul Baratero, I don't really give credit unless credit is due. And he's been talking about hydrogen for over 2 decades. This guy back in the early 2000s was talking about hydrogen and how important it was. And, people are now starting to come out and talk about, actual hydrogen because pH stands for potential hydrogen, right? And
Hmm.
also, there's a lot of research that says that you shouldn't be changing the alkalinity of your water. So I want to be very clear to your audience. Whatever water alkaline level is going into this water, it stays that alkaline water level. We're not changing the alkalinity. All we're doing is putting hydrogen gas into the water. So a lot of people, who understand, you do not want to put a lot of things in your stomach that can change your stomach acid. So the more neutral your water is, the better. There's a lot of people that say if you drink alkaline water, wait 30 minutes before eating.
Wow.
It's not the case with our water.
Dude, I'm so hyped on this. I'm like, I can't wait to give this water bottle a try and see how I feel afterwards because I have a feeling that I'm just gonna feel great after like 4 bottles of this stuff.
Chug it
Um,
down, man. You're gonna feel like you're gonna be doing hula hoops, man, doing jumps. You're gonna be like, I'm gonna go join jujitsu. I'm ready to go. No,
yeah,
it really is life changing, and it is incredible. But I also want to make sure that everybody that understands, you guys don't care who says it. Trust, but verify.
yeah,
Verify
yep.
all this information. Go do the research. I've had like I had 35 to 100 people that are chiropractors and doctors come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I tried hydrogen water and it didn't work." And I'm like, "Where'd you get it from?" They're like, "I got it on Amazon." They're like, "I paid 80 bucks for a bottle." And I'm like, "Was it hyperchlorous acid? Was it alkaline? Was it true hydrogen?" I'm like, "Did you take the meter? Did you check to see what the hydrogen was?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, that's what you get, when you buy something that isn't the true product. It can turn a lot of people off. And I've had doctors that, had given hydrogen water a try in the past. And they're like, "Mike, you know what? It's not for me." And I'm like, "Give me your address. I'm going to send you a bottle. Try it for a week." And I already tell my office manager, I'm like, he'll call you in 3 days and give you his credit card.
Um, dude, this is so cool. Thank you for coming on. We're getting close to the end of our time, but do you want to tell me a little bit about self-wellness?
Yeah, so the Self Wellness Center is an incredible place where we've taken acupuncture and chiropractic care and we've brought it to the next level with giving people modalities that really help them to tune in to their inner self wellness. So self stands for sound, energy, light, and frequency. So we've got some In Harmony sound lounges here that is basically a vibroacoustic bed that takes you through a journey of vibrating, your cellular level. We've got some quantum energy beds that are incredible for relaxation and reducing inflammation. And then our favorite is our theta chamber, which is an FDA approved chair that spins clockwise or counterclockwise and is really good for anxiety and depression. So it hits the brain with certain types of binaural beats and
Hmm.
light patterns. And you actually kind of feel like, remember when we were kids and like you would kind of get to the end of your swinging on a swing, and if you lift your legs up, you're kind of just like rocking back and forth and still like moving a little bit.
Hmm.
That's what it feels like, because you know the theta chamber, you're actually laying flat and it's spinning you around, but you don't feel it. It's not like a merry-go-round where you would, like when you were a kid and they'd spin you so fast where you throw up. It's a very subtle. You just notice. You kind of feel like you're floating. But anybody that wants to check it out, if you guys are ever in South Florida, it's the selfwellness.com.
Nice. And what like what town are you? South Florida? Like what part of South Florida are you in?
We're in Delray,
Got you.
right in
Got you.
Delray.
I'm gonna take you up. Hey, you mentioned that I can come as your guest if I'm ever in Florida. So
It'll be the best. It'll be the best. You're in LA, right?
yeah,
I think you can fly nonstop to Fort Lauderdale. It'd be the best couple $100. Book it out a couple weeks in advance, so that way you get, you know, a bigger discount. And I would highly recommend you come during spring break when the warm weather comes back, so you can hit the beach for a day, hit the wellness center for a day. It'll be well worth your $300 ticket.
I'm putting this in my notes. I'm gonna make sure to send you an email in the springtime. I want to try it. One of the things I like to do is I like to potentially try a lot of the things that my guests recommend, and then I can report back to the audience.
Mhm. Yeah,
That
I
I
can tell you that out of all of the products that we have, like the air purifier is definitely my favorite because of how long I've been in the HVAC industry. But the water bottle, people notice immediately. Like it's almost instantly the reports that we get back from people drinking hydrogen gas. And I mean, there's a whole like I implore every one of your listeners, do a deep dive on our supplement. You and I could spend another 3 hours on another podcast talking about, you know, some of our microsomal technology that we have that's made for air water healing by Global Healing out of Arizona, multi million dollar a month company, and the passion that goes into all of their supplements. Go through and do your own research, but read the reviews on some of the supplements that we have. Air water healing really is a one-stop shop for people who want to, and I hate the word biohack. I like the word biotune, right? Like we're tuning a guitar.
Yeah, I like that. What is so we didn't even get a chance to talk about the supplements, but what is I think you said microsomal. What does that mean?
So microsomal is a patented technology that Dr. Group had figured out a way where they're taking raw herbal material and they're putting it into big, huge nylon glass jars. They're putting it in triple distilled biophotonic water because water is very, very bioavailable. So when you, instead of using oil or different types of glycerins, when you have a product that's water based, it absorbs into the body better. So
Mhm.
whereas a lot of companies will have like a liposomal vitamin C or a liposomal D3, I'll make it very easy for your listeners. Go on Amazon, type in vitamin C, and then type in liposomal vitamin C. They will charge anywhere from 2 to 3 times for that word liposomal. We don't do it with the microsomal, and we're getting smaller, if not 3 to 4 times more bioavailable than liposomal. And what they're doing is they're hitting the nutrients with frequencies and sound waves to break up the plant-based material when it's in these glass jars, and it makes it super available for your body to absorb it. And we don't increase the price of our supplements.
What are some supplements that you got that you recommend?
For me, in my house, I think everybody should be taking vitamin D3. I
Hmm.
think you should be doing at least 5,000 to 10,000. I'm not a doctor, but I wake up in the morning. The very first thing that I do is I take my hydrogen water and I put in a scoop of this bad boy here. This is called Cardio Miracle. I don't manufacture this, but John Hewlett, one of the greatest and dearest people that I've ever met, he spent millions and millions of dollars creating this product. Real science, real people, real results. It's got over 22 real fruits, roots, and seeds inside of it, and it's mostly all organic. And I tell people it's from vitamin A to vitamin Z. It's got A to Z inside of it. So Cardio Miracle is one of my favorite, and then the Microsomal D3 that's on our website. That is absolutely a game changer, especially if you're up in the winter areas where you don't get the sun as much.
Amazing, amazing. So clean air, clean water, and good supplements. Is that what you recommend for a healthier lifestyle?
I mean, I think that's a very good start. It's a very good start. And then if people want to do a deeper dive, go into looking at intermittent fasting or looking at, different types of diets that will benefit the body. I'm a big fan of a net zero, no carb diet. I'm not telling people to be carnivores, but there's definitely a lot of science to having, high fat, high saturated fats inside of your diet. And, I think a lot of things that have been demonized, I think we need to do more and more research. I'm a huge fan of, people going into the store and absolutely, again, not medical advice. I would do everything you can to avoid seed oils.
Okay. Okay. By the way, I love the shirt.
Oh man, I'm a huge fan of the fungi.
I love it, man. I love it. I appreciate some fungi myself. Um, I feel like I'd love to have you back sometime to do like a whole other hour on fasting and supplements and maybe a touch of fungus too. If you ever have the time, I'd love to talk about that stuff with you as
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely. 100 it'd be my pleasure. This is what I love doing. I went from doing 40 trade shows a year to doing 30 podcasts a month.
Whoa, dude. Yeah, definitely. We'll have to set up another one for fasting and supplements. You seem like right up my alley with all the knowledge that you have. But in the meantime, as we kind of wrap this one up, where can people find you and what do you kind of want to leave people with?
I want to leave people with you guys can go to airwaterhealing.com and I'm going to create a promo code to give everybody a nice big discount with free shipping. So everything on the website when you use the coupon code for you and for what we did since I was able to actually survive this podcast, we're gonna do the promo code survive. So
Okay.
anybody that goes to airwaterhealing.com uses promo code survive, we'll give them a discount, free shipping.
Amazing. Dude, thank you so much. I'm going to use that. When will the promo code be live? Because I'm going to use that as soon as it's live.
I'll go grab my phone and I'll create a coupon right now. So to give me about 10 minutes and we'll have Survive ready to go on airwaterhealing.com.
Amazing. I'll wait like till later in the day to place my order, but I'm definitely getting a bottle and I'm using that coupon code. I will report back to the audience how much I like it.